A wide view stretches across Jellyfish Fields, and for a moment everything seems frozen in peace. No movement, no sound except the distant hum of the deep sea. Then slowly the first drop falls. It's small, almost invisible, yet it sends a gentle ripple through the soft sand. Then another follows, and another rhythm begins, like the heartbeat of the sea itself. Each drop shimmers faintly, glowing blue before melting into the ground. The underwater rain has begun. Above the coral hills, tiny jellyfish drift lazily, their tendrils waving like delicate ribbons. Raindrops pass through them, and they shimmer. Flashes of pink and gold dance in the dim water. The field becomes a living painting, glowing creatures hovering in a sea of motionless calm. Far in the distance, the faint outline of Bikini Bottom appears, its homes and signs softened by the mist. The camera moves slowly through this landscape, past the chum bucket, quiet for once, its neon lights dimmed, past the crusty crab, empty, its windows fogged with condensation. Even the kelp forest beyond seems asleep, its long leaves swaying gently under the rhythm of the rain. The focus shifts toward the pineapple house. A single warm glow leaks through the windows, a sign of life inside. The light flickers, not from the storm, but from the soft flame of a candle inside SpongeBob's room. It casts shadows that dance on the coral walls, painting shapes that seem to breathe with the rhythm of the falling rain. Outside, the raindrops patter against the surface of SpongeBob's home. Each drop turns into a small bubble that rises upward, merging with the soft mist that floats through the town. The rooftops gleam like polished shells. Puddles form in the sandy streets. When the bubbles burst, they release faint little chimes, the music of the sea rain. The camera slowly pans upward, following a single droplet as it falls from a floating cloud made of translucent water vapor. It lands gently on a jellyfish bell, and light scatters in every direction, blues, pinks, and whites blending into the surrounding water. A soothing sound accompanies it, something like a deep hum mixed with wind, yet unmistakably aquatic. As the rain grows steadier, the whole world seems to slow down. Every movement becomes fluid, dreamlike. A crab scuttles into its shell. A small snail hides under a coral leaf. Somewhere in the distance, a door creaks, then closes softly. The sound design builds. Gentle patter of raindrops on glass. Faint rumble of underwater thunder. Slow whoosh of waves above the scene. But there's no chaos here, just rhythm, calm, and flow. The camera moves through the mist, revealing the tiny details that make this world alive. A bubble clings to a shell and reflects the whole sky inside it. Two jellyfish cross paths, leaving glowing trails that fade like fireflies. A coral plant blooms slightly under the weight of the droplets, opening its petals wider. The lighting changes slowly as the rain deepens. The bright glow of the jellyfish dims into softer lavender, while the ocean's natural light turns cooler, more cayenne. It feels like dusk. Though the concept of night underwater is strange, it's more of a change in feeling than in sight. Everything turns quieter, softer, as though the world has inhaled and is waiting to exhale. Cut to a close-up shot of a puddle forming near SpongeBob's door. The reflection on its surface shows the blurred shapes of his home, the glowing windows and the cloudy sky above. A small bubble bursts, sending ripples outward, and in those ripples you can almost see the faint shimmer of the moonlight filtering through the water above. The music at this point is delicate, distant piano keys stretched and slowed, The faint murmur of a harp string, occasional low ocean hums. Every few seconds, a deep tone like a whale song far away vibrates softly beneath the melody. It's hypnotic, meant to calm and soothe, each note timed to the rhythm of falling rain. The focus shifts back to the pineapple window. Through the glass, the candlelight flickers gently, illuminating SpongeBob's outline. He hasn't yet spoken or moved. He's just there watching, feeling the rhythm of the storm. His world outside has turned into a dream, a soft, glowing, drifting universe of light and sound. The first thunder rumbles not loud but deep, rolling softly across the ocean floor. It feels more like a sigh than a strike, like the sea itself murmuring in sleep. Raindrops shimmer brighter for a few moments, reacting to the vibration, then fade back to their normal, gentle pattern. The scene widens again. Now the entire Bikini Bottom lies under the rain, every home glowing faintly, every coral softly waving, every drop reflecting a tiny moon above. It's peaceful, infinite, timeless. The narration could fade in softly if you plan to add one. And as the ocean drifted into its quietest night, Bikini Bottom fell into a rhythm only the rain could understand. The frame holds for several seconds, showing just the steady motion of rain and rising bubbles, perfect for slow breathing and relaxation. A gentle fade begins, leading into the next part of the segment inside SpongeBob's home, where warmth meets rain. The sound of rain deepens, wrapping the world in a soft cocoon of rhythm. Outside, the ocean glow dims just slightly, the water thickens with mist, and tiny sparkles drift through the current like glowing dust. Each droplet feels alive, carrying the hush of the sea within it. The camera drifts closer to SpongeBob's pineapple house. The outside walls gleam softly, droplets sliding down in streaks of gold. From inside, faint candlelight leaks through the small round windows, bending and dancing as it hits the watery surface. The rain outside plays its melody, tick, tick, tick. A gentle underwater echo that pulses in sync with SpongeBob's heartbeat. A close-up of the window reveals a delicate reflection. SpongeBob's face just barely visible through the foggy glass. He's quiet, thoughtful, his hands resting on the sill. He isn't sad, just still, like the ocean itself. The camera lingers here, long enough for viewers to feel the slow tempo, the hush that comes before sleep. Tiny bubbles rise from the sand outside, floating upward in slow motion. They reflect faint light, tiny moving stars in the underwater dusk. A small jellyfish drifts by the window, its bell glowing pale violet. It leaves behind a faint trail of bioluminescence, a liquid signature that fades after a few seconds, blending into the mist. Inside, SpongeBob's room feels warm, cozy, and full of life despite the silence. The walls are decorated with framed pictures, Patrick laughing, Gary sleeping, a snapshot of the Krusty Krab at sunset. The gentle candle flicker gives each photo a glow that moves as though the memories themselves are alive. SpongeBob turns his head slowly, eyes tracing the candlelight. He picks up the candle holder and places it near his bed, beside a small seashell clock that ticks faintly. The clock's ticking mixes perfectly with the rhythm of the rain, one natural, one man-made, both swaying in harmony. As the thunder murmurs again, SpongeBob glances toward Gary's bed in the corner. Gary is already tucked inside his shell, his snores forming tiny bubbles that pop with soft plinks. SpongeBob smiles gently, pulling a blanket up over his snail friend. He whispers something too quiet to hear maybe a simple, "Good night, buddy," Then he returns to his window. Outside, the storm has settled into a steady, soft drizzle, the kind of rain that feels like breathing, slow, deep, endless. The jellyfish fields in the distance glow faintly, the jellyfish now motionless, as if asleep mid-drift. Even the sand itself sparkles faintly, glowing in patches where raindrops land. A slow camera pan moves through the room, showing each soft detail. The way SpongeBob's slippers rest neatly beside his bed, the pages of an open book fluttering slightly from the draft, a seashell lamp casting a warm amber glow, and the quiet hum of a kettle in the background, releasing faint trails of bubbles. SpongeBob lifts his hand toward the window again, tracing a line on the fogged glass. His finger leaves a small heart shape, and behind it, another droplet slides down slowly, crossing right through it, as if completing it. He chuckles softly, a sound like a sigh mixed with a giggle. A wide shot shows his pineapple home from outside again. Rain glides down its spiky walls, collecting into small, shimmering puddles on the ground. The mist thickens, curling around the door and rising up through the coral plants nearby. The sound of the storm becomes softer, blending now with a gentle background melody, a harp arpeggio repeating every few seconds like a slow heartbeat. As the camera moves through the mist, the scene becomes more abstract. Shapes blur, colors blend. It's no longer a normal view of Bikini Bottom, but something dreamlike, drifting between the real and the unreal. The music swells slightly, a few notes higher, suggesting something magical is about to happen. The focus returns to the droplets themselves. Each one, now glowing faintly, holds a reflection. Tiny glimpses of SpongeBob's house, of jellyfish, of coral hills. It's as if the rain remembers everything it touches. The narration could softly return, or ambient text on screen, if preferred. Even in the quietest nights, the sea remembers, every drop, every shimmer a dream falling gently through the deep. The lighting continues its transformation. The golden glow inside the pineapple becomes warmer. The blue of the outside world cools into turquoise, and the soft mist gains a faint lavender hue, signaling the blending of dream and night. A slow zoom in back to SpongeBob's window shows him now leaning back on a pillow. The rain continues outside, steady, soothing. He lets out a quiet hum, not a tune, just a feeling, a little echo of contentment. The screen begins to fade slightly darker, but not to black instead. It transitions into deeper shades of blue. Tiny glimmers remain visible, like scattered stars across the ocean floor. The music holds one long note as bubbles rise slowly past the camera lens, leading us gently into the next part of the night. The rain has become a lullaby. Outside, the underwater world moves in rhythm, droplets falling, bubbles rising, and the faint shimmer of moonlight flickering through the misty currents. Every sound seems to merge into one gentle song, the ocean's whisper of sleep. Inside, SpongeBob adjusts his blanket and watches the shadows on his walls. The candle beside his bed flickers softly, the light dancing like ripples on water. It makes the shadows of furniture bend and sway his dresser, his chair, the outline of Gary's bowl all moving gently as though breathing. SpongeBob tilts his head, smiling faintly. It almost feels like the house itself is alive, keeping him company in the rain. A soft piano tone begins in the background, slow, warm notes, spaced far apart, giving room for the raindrops' natural rhythm to fill the silence between. Then a quiet hum joins, not from SpongeBob, but from the ocean currents outside, resonating faintly through the walls like a deep breath. The camera drifts toward the window again, where raindrops crawl down the glass in glowing trails. Each drop catches a bit of candlelight, turning into a moving pearl that leaves behind a faint rainbow shimmer. Through the glass, we see the blurred forms of jellyfish drifting past their bells, glowing gently in the blue night. They move like floating lanterns, their light bending as it passes through the rain. A close-up shot shows a droplet clinging to the edge of the window, trembling before it falls. When it drops, the camera follows it downward, spinning slowly as it descends past the coral decorations on the wall, past SpongeBob's shelf of seashells, and finally landing in a small puddle near the floor. The ripples spread outward, merging with the faint hum of the room. The effect is hypnotic, a visual rhythm, perfectly matching the slow soundscape. SpongeBob stretches, yawning softly. He glances at his bedside table and picks up a tiny cup, warm tea, steam rising slowly in smooth lines. He takes a careful sip, sighs, then sets it down again, the cup clinking softly against the shell surface. The steam curls upward and drifts toward the window, mixing with the glow of the candlelight. For a moment, it looks like the shapes of jellyfish in the mist rising and fading again. The camera pans around his room, tracing the familiar comfort of his surroundings on his square bed with a blue blanket covered in bubble prints. His alarm clock ticking quietly beside the candle. A picture of Patrick taped to the wall, slightly tilted. A stack of small, colorful books, one titled Dreams Beneath the Sea. He runs his fingers over that book, tracing the letters with the quiet thought. He doesn't open it yet, not while the rain sounds this peaceful. For now, it's enough just to listen. The scene widens again to the outside world. The streets of Bikini Bottom are coated in silver-blue light. Raindrops hit coral rooftops, rolling down in glowing lines that collect in puddles near the ground. Each puddle reflects the night-tiny moon shining softly. The sign outside the Krusty Krab creaks gently in the current, its metal edges glinting faintly with each flash of distant lightning. A low thunder rolls again, but softer now, more like the ocean sign. You can almost feel it vibrate through the sand. Small schools of glowing fish swim past the streetlights, their tails leaving behind faint trails of gold. The water current swirls them gently, their movements like dancers in slow motion. Back inside, SpongeBob lowers his eyelids. He leans against his pillow and listens, pitter, patter, pitter, patter. Each droplet a tiny beat, steady and endless. He counts them without realizing, following the rhythm like a heartbeat. The more he listens, the more everything else fades his thoughts, the walls, even the world outside. The music shifts now, blending in a deeper sound, a slow, echoing cello tone, smooth and weightless. It feels like it comes from far away, deep in the sea's heart. It swells and fades in waves, mixing with the piano and rain in perfect balance. Together they form a lullaby that asks for nothing, just silence, peace, and time. The camera slowly drifts upward, following a line of bubbles that float toward the ceiling. As they rise, they reflect fragments of the room. SpongeBob's gentle smile, the flickering candle, the blurred window beyond. Each bubble pops quietly, the sound so faint, it feels like part of the air itself. Then the focus changes. We look through the window once more. The storm is calmer now. Rain falls slower, the droplets larger, more spaced apart. The moonlight above filters through the clouds, painting everything with a soft blue haze. Even the sea plants outside seem to sleep, swaying in unison with the current. In the final seconds of this section, SpongeBob hums softly, maybe a tune from childhood, maybe something he just made up. It's simple, quiet, and a little off-key, but it fits perfectly. The sound melts into the piano and cello, fading into the rhythm of rain. The frame lingers on him as his eyes drift closed for a few seconds, not asleep yet, but floating somewhere between wakefulness and dreams. The last shot of this part shows a wide angle of his home, seen from the outside again. The pineapple glows softly in the storm, light flickering like a heartbeat. The rain continues, bubbles rise and fade, and the world feels completely still. The transition prepares for the final phase, the deep calm before he begins to dream. The rain has softened now, almost whispering. Each drop falls slower, more spaced, like the ocean itself is breathing carefully, not to disturb the stillness. The camera floats closer to SpongeBob's pineapple house once again, and the faint golden glow through its windows becomes the only light visible through the fog. Outside, the streets of Bikini Bottom have completely emptied. No sounds of cars, no footsteps, no bubbles, popping only the rain. The sign of the Krusty Krab sways gently, creaking once before the current hushes it again. Even Squidward's house is silent, the window dark, a shadow of his clarinet faintly visible on the wall. Everything is asleep. Only SpongeBob's light remains small, gentle, steady. The camera glides closer, passing through the fog that now feels like a dream. Tiny glowing specks float in the water, not dust, not bubbles, but particles of bioluminescence, twinkling like drifting stars. Each time a raindrop touches them, they scatter in small bursts of light before fading again. The entire ocean looks like a slow-motion snowfall, glowing softly under the dim moonlight. Through SpongeBob's window, we see him still awake, lying on his bed, his arms folded behind his head. His eyes follow the ceiling patterns, the candlelight flickering gently across the wooden beams. He blinks slowly, his thoughts quiet, his expression at peace. There's no need for words here, the soundscape speaks for him. The faint tap of rain, the hum of the ocean, the soft pulse of his heartbeat, matching the rhythm of the world outside. A close-up shows a droplet forming on the window's edge. It grows heavier with time, trembling as it collects more water from the mist. Finally it falls, but instead of breaking apart, it glows softly as it drifts downward. The camera follows it, and for a few moments, the droplet becomes the lens reflecting the room, SpongeBob's face, the candle's flame, all inside its liquid world. When it finally lands on the floor, it merges into a puddle, creating ripples that fade into silence. SpongeBob takes a slow breath and lets out a quiet sigh. He sits up slightly, glancing once more at Gary, who's deep in sleep. Gary's shell glows faintly from the bioluminescent moss that grows on its side, pulsing like a nightlight. SpongeBob watches for a few seconds, then gently blows out his candle. The flame flickers, bends, and fades. For a moment, everything turns completely dark. Then moonlight takes over. It filters through the water, faint but steady, spilling through the window in beams of soft blue. Dust-like particles drift through it, glimmering like underwater snow. SpongeBob's outline is still visible, illuminated by this quiet moonlight. He lies back down, pulls his blanket up to his chin, and closes his eyes with a faint smile. The music transitions to its quietest point, a single piano note repeating gently, spaced with long pauses. Underneath, a faint ocean hum, and every few seconds, a low, echoing sound like the sea's heartbeat. The balance is perfect. Enough sound to fill the silence, but quiet enough to lull the listener toward sleep. Outside, the camera floats upward once again, revealing the rooftops of Bikini Bottom. Rain continues to fall, but softer, more like mist now. The coral plants sway slowly in the current. The roads shimmer under a silver-blue glow, reflecting the faint stars above, and through the fog, a gentle shape appears, a jellyfish drifting slowly through the scene, its bell expanding and contracting like a heartbeat. The light it casts ripples across the sand below, like waves of calm spreading through the town. The visual tone here shifts to complete stillness. Nothing rushes. Every motion feels suspended in time. Even the bubbles rising from the chimneys seem to move in slow motion. One drifts past the camera lens, and for a second, it shows a reflection of SpongeBob's pineapple glowing warmly, a tiny world preserved inside a sphere. The camera pans slowly outward, widening the view again. We see the outlines of nearby homes, the empty roads, the glowing coral fields beyond. The sky, or what looks like a sky beneath the sea, carries a faint shimmer of moonlight and soft, drifting clouds of plankton. A bolt of lightning flickers far away, not sharp or bright, just a whisper of energy that illuminates the scene for half a heartbeat. It reveals the entire town in one serene flash, then fades, leaving the darkness soft and safe. The narration or subtitle, optional, could appear here, fading gently onto the screen. And as the rain whispered across the sea, every heart in Bikini Bottom slowed, every breath matched the rhythm of the ocean's dream. The text fades as the ambient sounds take over once again. A faint lullaby begins, just a few repeating harp notes, almost imperceptible. The raindrops become softer, smaller, until they sound like nothing more than quiet whispers. The rain continues outside, but softer now, like a quiet hum beneath the sea. It no longer splashes. It floats, drifting through the current, catching faint glimmers of light as it falls. Each drop seems to hold a tiny reflection of the world around it, the coral rooftops, the lamps, the calm shimmer of the ocean above. Inside SpongeBob's pineapple house, everything feels warm. The camera drifts in through the round window, where faint golden light spills outward into the mist. Tiny water droplets cling to the glass, creating streaks that slowly slide down in crooked lines. Behind the window, a small candle flickers gently, its flame wobbling in rhythm with the underwater breeze. SpongeBob sits on a small stool beside the window. He's wrapped in a cozy blue blanket, and in his hands is an open book titled Tales of the Tide. The soft yellow light from the candle dances over his face, highlighting his eyes calm, sleepy, and curious. He reads each word slowly, his lips moving just enough to shape the sentences, but his voice remains silent. The only sounds, the quiet patter of rain, the faint creak of wood, and the low hum of the ocean's pulse. The camera angle shifts, showing the view from outside the window now. We see SpongeBob through the droplets, his image blurred slightly, glowing through the soft condensation. Each droplet refracts his light, turning his reflection into 1,000 tiny stars. The window itself looks like a small world, a glowing circle surrounded by darkness. Inside, the rhythm of the rain becomes like music. Each tap against the window glass creates a note random, yet melodic. Some drops slide quickly, others stay suspended, waiting before falling. SpongeBob blinks slowly, glancing up from his book, as if listening to the song the rain is playing just for him. The room around him glows in amber tones. Gary is still asleep on his favorite mat, his shell faintly glowing in the candlelight. A few tiny bubbles drift from a corner of the room, floating lazily upward before fading into the shadows near the ceiling. The furniture, a soft bed, a wooden dresser, and a hanging picture of SpongeBob and Patrick all sway gently with the water's movement. Nothing moves too quickly. Everything breathes in slow harmony. The camera pans across the room. We see SpongeBob's books neatly stacked beside his chair titles like Undersea Poetry, Dreams of the Deep, and The Ocean's Heartbeat. Each cover glimmers faintly under the candlelight, their edges worn, showing that they've been read many times. A small cup of warm kelp tea rests on the table beside him, steam swirling gently upward in thin, graceful lines. The steam catches the candlelight, turning it into ribbons of gold that twist and fade. The soundscape deepens, the low hum of distant thunder soft, round, and comforting. Not sharp or frightening, just enough to remind the viewer that the storm continues far beyond the window. Each rumble travels slowly through the ocean, like a wave of warmth moving through the scene. It feels ancient, alive, and peaceful. SpongeBob flips a page carefully. His hand moves slowly, as though not to disturb the air around him. The candlelight flickers again, and for a brief second, the golden glow turns blue, reflecting the lightning that flashes faintly outside. The flash is gentle, almost hidden, just a pale shimmer through the rain. SpongeBob smiles quietly, whispering, "Guess it's still raining out there." The camera tilts downward, showing a close-up of his book. The words on the page describe an ocean voyager traveling through storms, guided only by the glow of sea lanterns. SpongeBob traces the words with his finger as he reads. His reflection in the window aligns perfectly with the illustration, his face merging with the voyager's silhouette. For a second, it looks as though SpongeBob himself is sailing through the pages, drifting through the story's glowing sea. The music becomes slightly more melodic, a slow harp rhythm joined by a faint, echoing bell. Each note feels like a raindrop landing on glass, creating a sense of calm continuity. There's no rush. Everything flows together. The rain, the light, the sound, all forming a single, living moment that stretches and breathes. Outside the house, the camera drifts along the walls of the pineapple. Raindrops fall slower now, almost floating mid-water. The small cracks and grooves in the pineapple surface shimmer faintly as light reflects off them. Tiny snails crawl across the surface, leaving glowing trails that fade behind them. Everything outside feels like a dream, painted in blue and gold. Back inside, SpongeBob looks up again, his gaze drawn to the window pane. He reaches out and gently presses a hand against the glass. A droplet lands exactly where his hand touches, and for a moment, the two worlds inside and outside connect. The droplet clings to the glass, refracting the light of his candle in miniature rainbow colors. SpongeBob's eyes widen slightly in awe, and a quiet laugh escapes him. Soft, genuine, the sound of childlike wonder. The lighting shifts subtly as the candle's flame bends with the current. Warm gold fades into pale moonlight. The window now shows faint reflections of moving clouds above the ocean shapes that drift like soft curtains. SpongeBob leans his chin on his hands and watches quietly. Outside, a group of jellyfish float by, glowing faintly pink and lavender. Their gentle light passes across the window, painting his face in pastel hues. He whispers softly, Even they can't sleep tonight, huh? His voice echoes faintly in the water, almost becoming part of the rain itself. He smiles again, his eyelids half closed, drifting between thought and dream. The rain continues, never harsh, never ending, just as soft and endless comforts. The world outside fades gently into blur, and the room becomes a cocoon of warmth and gold. The camera pulls back slowly, showing SpongeBob framed by the window light. Rain cascades softly over the glass, creating ribbons that distort his shape, just enough to make him look like part of the ocean itself. The candle flickers again, the book rests open on his lap, and the scene holds calm, perfect, and quiet. Then, as if the world has taken a deep breath, everything pauses for a moment. No movement, no sound, just stillness. The only thing that remains is the gentle glow of the candle and the quiet hum of the underwater rain. The rain begins to thicken again, soft but steady, a delicate rhythm playing against the window pane. Outside, the mist deepens into soft blue shadows, turning Bikini Bottom into a watercolor painting. Shapes blur coral houses, lampposts, seashell mailboxes, all glowing faintly beneath layers of drifting rain. Inside, SpongeBob's candle burns lower now. Its wick bends slightly, dancing with the faint currents in the room. Each flicker changes the color of the walls, warm amber, then pale rose, then back to soft gold. The shadows shift like living things, breathing in and out, echoing the pulse of the ocean itself. SpongeBob sighs contentedly and closes his book. The title on the cover glows faintly from the candle's reflection, Tales of the Tide. He places it carefully on the small table beside him, next to the cup of kelp tea, which now has cooled to a perfect, quiet stillness. Tiny ripples move across its surface with every vibration from the thunder outside, like the tea is listening too. He turns his gaze back toward the window. Raindrops have gathered into slow rolling lines, like glass beads drifting downward in graceful curves. Behind them, the faint silhouettes of jellyfish can be seen passing by, luminous creatures floating through the night like wandering lanterns. Their bodies pulse gently with pink and violet light, illuminating the raindrops from behind. The camera moves closer to SpongeBob's face, his eyes reflecting each jellyfish's glow. And there's something magical about it. His gaze is soft, lost, as though he's looking beyond the glass, beyond the water, into something deeper. "Wow," he whispers, barely audible. "They look like floating dreams." The jellyfish move in slow rhythm one after another, almost like notes in a melody only the ocean can hear. Their tentacles shimmer faintly, each pulse lighting up SpongeBob's window like a string of fairy lights. The camera pans upward, following their trail as they float higher and fade into the dark blue currents above. Inside, the rain continues its soft percussion. Some droplets slide down the window and merge, forming small rivers that race each other to the edge of the frame. Others just hang, trembling, holding tiny reflections of SpongeBob's room inside them. If you look closely, you can see his candle and his chair, tiny versions trapped inside each drop, swaying gently. The scene holds a kind of sacred stillness, not silence, but peaceful presence. You can almost feel the weight of the water, the temperature of the room, the softness of the glow. Then a low boom of thunder rolls across the sea, deep, long, resonant. It's not sharp, it's round, distant, comforting, like a whale's voice echoing through the deep. SpongeBob's eyes flutter, but he doesn't flinch. He just watches the candle flame dance a little higher, then settle again. The music swells faint harp strings, blending with ocean hums and light raindrop percussion. It feels timeless, like it could last forever. Each sound, each glimmer of light, merges into a hypnotic rhythm that draws the listener inward. SpongeBob stands up slowly, pulling the blanket tighter around himself. He walks toward the window, bare feet padding softly across the wooden floor. The floorboards creak faintly, releasing tiny bubbles that drift upward, a sweet little detail that reminds us we're still underwater. He rests both hands on the window ledge, leaning forward to look closer. The glass is cool against his fingertips, covered in faint condensation. His breath fogs the window slightly, creating a soft patch of mist. He draws a little jellyfish on it with his finger, a simple circle and lines for tentacles. The moment he finishes, the real jellyfish outside glide past, their glow lining up perfectly with the one he's drawn. SpongeBob giggles quietly. It's not loud, not silly, just a tiny sound of wonder. He steps back, admiring how the glowing creatures blend with his little doodle. For a few seconds, it feels like they're playing together, two worlds overlapping through a thin sheet of glass. The camera pulls back, showing SpongeBob's small figure framed against the glowing window. Outside, the jellyfish move away, their lights fading slowly. The rain continues, heavier now, forming a soft veil over everything. Inside, the candlelight flickers again, bending into the rhythm of the storm. SpongeBob's eyes grow softer. He walks back to his chair, the blanket trailing behind like a small wave. He sits down again, tucking the blanket around himself, and gazes up at the ceiling where faint reflections of water ripple across. The reflections dance blue, gold, and lavender, moving gently as if painted by invisible hands. He blinks slowly, his breathing deepening. The rhythm of the rain syncs with his heartbeat. Tap, 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 tap. Each sound a lullaby in itself. The camera shifts focus to Gary, who's still sleeping peacefully nearby. The snail's shell catches the candlelight and glows faintly with a spiral pattern, like a galaxy caught in amber. Occasionally, a small bubble escapes from his mouth, floating lazily into the air and popping silently. SpongeBob watches him and smiles. "You got the right idea, buddy," he murmurs, his voice gentle as a whisper. He leans back in the chair, head resting against the cushion, eyes half-lidded. The rain begins to sound softer again, not fading but blending with the background hum of the ocean outside. Thunder rolls far in the distance, barely audible now, like a fading heartbeat. The lighting begins to cool, candlelight growing dimmer, moonlight shining brighter through the mist. The window now reflects SpongeBob's sleepy face, overlaid with the shimmering ocean outside. The two images, his warm golden glow and the deep blue beyond, merge together, forming a tranquil contrast of worlds. The music fades into a single note, held long and slow. The camera lingers on SpongeBob's eyes, reflecting the candlelight's last flicker. The flame dances once, twice, and then stills. The rain keeps falling. The world breathes quietly. The room settles deeper into peace. And SpongeBob, still wrapped in his blanket, watches the glow in the window with a faint, dreamy smile. The night has wrapped him in warmth and stillness, and time for a while has stopped moving. The camera drifts slowly closer to SpongeBob's face. His eyes are half open, reflecting both the flickering candle and the silver blue light spilling in from outside. Each blink seems slower than the last, every breath more rhythmic, as if his body has synced with the sound of the rain. Outside the window, the storm has softened into a delicate drizzle. Raindrops drift lazily through the water, their motion barely visible, more like glowing beads suspended mid-air. The world outside has turned dreamy, its edges blurred by the mist. The coral rooftops and lamps of Bikini Bottom now look like distant islands floating in a vast sea of blue light. Inside, everything remains still. The faint hum of the ocean surrounds the house like a blanket. The candle flame bends slightly, its glow reflected in the glass of the picture frame on SpongeBob's wall, the one showing him and Patrick at Jellyfish Fields. Their smiles in the photo glimmer faintly as the light flickers, as though they're alive in the quiet room. SpongeBob looks at that frame for a moment. He smiles softly, whispering. Patrick's probably snoring right now. The sound of his voice feels like part of the room, not breaking the stillness, but blending with it. He tilts his head back toward the window, where the rain glows faintly like strands of falling stars. His eyelids flutter once, twice, then stay half lowered. The camera pans slowly from the window to the reflection in his eyes. In the reflection, tiny shapes begin to appear, not clear at first, just swirls of light and shadow. Gradually, the shapes take form. Drifting jellyfish, clouds of soft coral, shimmering plankton, glowing like constellations. They move gently, swirling together until they resemble an ocean sky. SpongeBob's breathing slows. His eyes close for a few seconds, then open again, but this time, something feels different. The line between the reflection in the window and the world beyond it has blurred. The rain doesn't just fall outside anymore. It seems to fall through the glass, floating across the room like glowing dust. The air sparkles faintly. Each droplet glows for a moment before vanishing, leaving behind tiny rings of light that drift upward. SpongeBob reaches out his hand slowly. When he moves his fingers through the air, the droplets scatter like fireflies. His expression doesn't change, calm, peaceful, still half dreaming. He isn't surprised. It feels natural, as if the room and the rain have always shared the same breath. The music deepens, faint harp plucks merge with soft underwater tones, echoing like distant lullabies. Each note seems to come from the rain itself. When a drop hits the glass, a gentle chime plays. When it slides down, another tone follows random, yet perfectly in harmony. SpongeBob whispers again. It's like the rain is singing. He leans his head against the window, his cheek pressing lightly against the cool glass. Outside, the mist shimmers with faint golden light, not from the candle anymore, but from somewhere beyond. Tiny sparkles drift through the water, forming trails that twist and swirl like ribbons of starlight. The jellyfish return, glowing softly as they pass by the window again. But now, their lights move slower, dreamlike almost, as if time itself is flowing differently. The camera follows one jellyfish, its body pulsating in soft lavender. The scene blurs around it, fading from SpongeBob's window to the open ocean beyond. For a few moments, we float through the sea with the jellyfish moving past coral towers, glowing seaweed, and drifting bubbles that reflect tiny worlds inside them. The soundscape is pure serenity, rain fading into waves, waves melting into the hum of the deep. The scene fades back into the room. SpongeBob still sits by the window, his eyes closed now. The blanket around him rises and falls gently with his breathing. The candle's flame has shrunk, its wick glowing red. Outside, lightning flashes once, illuminating the mist, but it's soft, pale and slow, almost in slow motion. For an instant, the whole room glows blue, silver, gold, and then fades back into dim calm. The camera focuses on SpongeBob's hand resting on the window ledge. Droplets drift down and cling to his fingers. Each one glows faintly before disappearing into small wisps of light. It's as if the rain is dissolving into his dreams, melting quietly into his imagination. Gary stirs slightly, letting out a sleepy little meow. The sound ripples through the silence like a gentle wave. SpongeBob smiles without opening his eyes. "Good night, buddy." His words float out, carried by the current. The candle flickers once more, its light dimming to a soft ember. The air in the room grows heavier, denser, not with tension, but with peace. Everything slows, the rain, the bubbles, even the tiny glow particles drifting near the ceiling. The camera angle widens, showing SpongeBob framed by the round window once again. Outside, Bikini Bottom glows faintly through the haze. Faraway lamps shimmer like distant stars. The whole town seems asleep, lost beneath layers of rain and moonlit current. As the scene holds, a faint glow appears beyond the mist, a passing whale silhouette, moving gracefully through the dark water. Its low hum vibrates through the scene, deep and soothing. The vibration causes the candle flame to bend once more, flickering like a heartbeat. The whale's shadow drifts past, leaving behind trails of glowing plankton that swirl slowly around SpongeBob's window. They look like falling snow, luminous and slow, settling softly on the glass. For a brief moment, the world feels completely still. Every sound fades except the quiet patter of rain, the faint hum of the whale's song, and SpongeBob's gentle breathing. His eyelids flutter once more. His thoughts dissolve into warmth, into rhythm, into peace. The room fades further into dimness. The glow from outside grows fainter, blending with the soft blue of the ocean night. The camera lingers on his face, calm, serene, caught between the edge of wakefulness and sleep. His reflection in the window still shows a faint shimmer of light, jellyfish and raindrops, drifting endlessly in the deep. The rain keeps falling, and the night drifts deeper into silence. The sound of the rain begins to fade, not completely, but into something softer. It no longer feels like drops against glass, but like a gentle rhythm echoing from far away, somewhere deep within the sea. The entire house seems to sway with it, as though Bikini Bottom itself is breathing in time with the ocean. SpongeBob sits perfectly still. Only the slow rise and fall of his chest shows that he's still awake, just barely. The candle has melted almost to the base, its last glow trembling near the edge of the wax. Its light flickers across the walls, bending into soft shapes, round, blurry, golden. Each flicker seems to match the sound of the rain, pulse for pulse. A single droplet slides down the inside of the window. As it moves, it catches every shimmer around it, light from the candle, reflections of jellyfish outside, the blue shimmer of the sea. When it reaches the bottom, it splits into tiny globes, glowing for a second before fading into mist. SpongeBob's eyes follow it lazily. His head tilts, just enough for the blanket to slip slightly off his shoulder. The camera slowly zooms in on the side of his face, his expression soft, half smiling. The edges of his outline begin to blur into the golden haze from the candle. Outside, the drizzle thickens again, not in volume, but in presence. Each droplet glows like a miniature star. It's no longer rain. It's light falling from above, moving through water like floating embers. For a brief moment, SpongeBob's eyes open again. He stares at the window, and this time, What he sees is not Bikini Bottom. He sees colors. Gentle pastel ribbons swirling outside the glass, pinks, blues, and soft yellows bending like watercolor trails in the sea. They drift and weave around each other like the afterimage of dreams forming before sleep. He blinks once slowly. When his eyes open again, he's somewhere else. Dream transition. The room is still there, but changed. The rain continues, but the sound is distant, muffled by a warm hum. The candle has become a small, glowing orb floating beside him. Gary now drifts through the air in slow motion, his shell leaving behind a faint trail of bubbles. SpongeBob doesn't move. He's dreaming now, but the dream is gentle, quiet. He looks toward the window, and instead of glass, there's only open water. Jellyfish swim freely into the room, their tendrils shimmering like ribbons of moonlight. They glide around the furniture, leaving glowing trails that curl and fade into the air. Each time they pass near SpongeBob, the candlelight bends around them, scattering into hundreds of tiny reflections across the walls. Those reflections turn into little memories, faint. Blurred SpongeBob and Patrick building sandcastles, Squidward painting at dusk, Mr. Krabs counting coins under his lamp. They appear for a moment, then dissolve back into the golden mist. The rain hasn't stopped. It falls endlessly, soft and steady, like a song that has no beginning or end. Outside SpongeBob's pineapple house, droplets slide down the glowing yellow walls, their trails catching the reflections of the streetlights. The entire neighborhood seems to hum with quiet. Patrick's rock is closed tight. Squidward's window flickers with the faint outline of a lamp. But here, inside, it's all warmth. A candle burns gently beside the window. Its flame dances with the rhythm of the rain. Flicker, pause, flicker again. Each time a droplet hits the glass, a tiny ripple of light trembles across the room. The air smells faintly of salt, wax, and sea breeze. SpongeBob sits at a small wooden desk near the window. He's wrapped in a fuzzy blanket, the kind with tiny bubble patterns stitched along the edge. A thick ocean blue book rests open before him, the cover slightly worn, the pages curled from moisture. Its title reads, Tales Beneath the Tide. The letters shimmer faintly, catching bits of candlelight like shells under shallow water. He turns the page slowly. The paper makes a soft, papery sigh, a sound that somehow blends perfectly with the rain outside. The story he's reading is about a sailorfish who followed the sound of rain through the deepest trenches of the ocean. Each line seems to echo the moment, the rhythm of droplets, the pulse of calm in the room. Outside, through the foggy window, jellyfish drift lazily through the water. Their pink and blue glows flicker like lanterns in the night. Sometimes a flash of lightning far in the distance lights the water in soft white, and the jellyfish seem to vanish, then reappear, slower, calmer, as though even they are listening. SpongeBob leans his chin on his hand, smiling faintly. His eyes move gently along the words, but every few lines they wander toward the window again. He watches the rain slide down the glass, tracing invisible paths that meet and part, merge and disappear. Each droplet becomes a tiny world reflecting the candlelight, his own face, the shape of the book beside him. Gary sits curled on the desk's corner, half asleep. His shell glows faintly in the light, color shifting with the reflection of the rain. Every so often, he opens one eye slowly, watching SpongeBob for a moment before returning to his little nap. The steady rhythm of the rain, the warm flicker of light, and the quiet turning of pages make the room feel like it's floating somewhere between dream and waking. The camera moves slowly, circling behind SpongeBob. We see the windows glow, reflecting off the book, the candle's flame swaying gently beside it. In the reflection of the glass, SpongeBob's eyes are soft, distant, not just reading words, but remembering something. Something about simpler times, about being small, and hearing the rain for the first time, and not knowing what sadness or silence meant. That's what this moment feels like. The kind of quiet that feels alive. The story continues. And the sailorfish listened. He followed the rhythm of the sea until the rain became his song. SpongeBob mouths the words as he reads them, his voice barely a whisper. The sound mingles with the patter of rain and the faint hum of the ocean currents outside. Each word feels soft, round, and sleepy like lullabies hidden inside sentences. He turns another page. The candlelight catches the golden edges of the paper, making them shimmer for a heartbeat before the flame steadies again. Outside, a single droplet slides down the window and pauses, caught in a ripple of current. It trembles there, reflecting SpongeBob's face upside down, two small, kind eyes, gazing back through the water. The room breathes in rhythm with the weather. When thunder rumbles, it's low and comforting like a faraway heartbeat. When lightning flashes, it paints the walls in soft silver for a moment, revealing the outlines of books, shelves, framed photos, and the shadow of SpongeBob's pineapple-shaped lamp. The camera lingers on those photos, SpongeBob and Patrick at the Jellyfish Fields, Mr. Krabs smiling beside the Krusty Krab, Squidward mid-eye roll but still in the frame. The kind of photos that make a home feel lived in. SpongeBob's eyes move back to the page. He reads on, the story now talking about quiet nights and listening to the sea. His voice, still whispering softly, fills the space between rain sounds. Gary's breathing deepens, matching the steady rhythm outside. The scene becomes slower now. The soundscape thins fewer raindrops, more distant hum. We hear the gentle creak of the wooden chair as SpongeBob leans closer to the candle. His eyes are getting heavier, but he keeps reading, each word slower than the last. And when the last raindrop touched the ocean's heart, it became light, shining through the deep forever. He stops. The line lingers. He repeats it once more, whispering so softly that it sounds like part of the rain, shining through the deep forever. The camera drifts upward, showing the reflection of SpongeBob and the candle in the window. Outside, the jellyfish drift by, again slower now, dimmer. The rain's rhythm has softened to a whisper. The page lies open. The flame dances one last time. And SpongeBob, still smiling faintly, closes his eyes. The book lies open before SpongeBob, the pages glowing faintly in the candlelight. Outside, the rain continues, a slow, steady song tapping against the glass. Every drop feels like a note in some hidden melody that only the sea knows. SpongeBob's eyelids flutter, half awake, half dreaming, as the words on the page start to shimmer faintly, as though the ink itself were alive. He blinks, and for a moment the candlelight shifts. The black letters on the paper seem to ripple just slightly, then swirl, like tiny fish moving beneath the surface of a pond. SpongeBob rubs his eyes, smiling softly. Maybe it's just the light, he whispers to himself. But when he looks again, the page seems deeper. The white surface has turned to a pale, glowing blue, and gentle ripples move across it like water. A droplet of rain slides down the window pane, perfectly synchronized with the motion of the page. The reflection of the candle flame seems to stretch across the glass, across the book, connecting them in a single shimmer of gold. And then, for a heartbeat, the rain outside and the story inside feel like one thing. The words lift faintly off the page, curling into soft lines of glowing ink that drift upward like wisps of light. They hang in the air, shimmering, then scatter into tiny bubbles that rise and fade. Each bubble carries a word, or maybe a sound, or maybe a memory. SpongeBob can't quite tell. He leans closer, watching, entranced. The candle flickers again, and the scene begins to shift. The air feels thicker, softer, filled with a dim blue glow. The rain sound changes less sharp, more like falling pearls on velvet. When SpongeBob looks up, the room is different. The walls are gone. The desk, the bookshelves, the lamp all have faded into the dark blue around him. He's still sitting at his desk, but the window isn't just a window anymore. It's a vast, open ocean. Through it, he sees the world of the story he was reading. Endless waves rolling gently under a glowing moon. A small sailboat drifting by, its sail made of seashells, its mast glowing like coral. And on the boat, the sailorfish from his story, looking up at the rain falling from above the sea. The same rain that falls outside SpongeBob's house. SpongeBob blinks again, unsure whether he's awake. He looks down. The book still lies open. But now the words have become tiny streams of light, moving across the page like glowing plankton in motion. He reaches out, his finger touching one of the letters. It feels warm, not like paper, but like sunlight caught in a drop of water. The candle beside him hums quietly, the flame tall and steady. Its reflection in the water window shimmers, stretching out into the ocean scene beyond. Oh, and then, as if guided by some invisible current, the candle's light begins to move toward the window slowly, gently, until it passes right through the glass and floats outward into the sea. There it becomes a small, glowing orb, joining 1,000 others that drift beneath the waves. SpongeBob watches, wide-eyed. He doesn't move, not out of fear, but out of awe. He feels small, peaceful, and completely still, as though the entire world has paused to let him breathe. Outside, the jellyfish return, glowing brighter now, their lights matching the rhythm of the candle's flame. They float closer to the window one by one until their soft outlines fill the glass. Each jellyfish pulses like a heartbeat, spreading waves of pink and lavender light across SpongeBob's face. His reflection flickers between yellow and blue, warm and cool, the colors of calm. Gary stirs on the table beside him, blinking slowly. He looks at SpongeBob, then at the glowing book, and lets out a quiet, sleepy meow. SpongeBob chuckles softly, his voice barely a whisper. Yeah, buddy. It's like the book's alive tonight. He turns another page. The paper glows faintly under his touch, and for a moment, the rain sound fades, replaced by a distant melody, faint but beautiful. It's the sound of the ocean itself singing, or maybe the sailorfish's song from the story. The kind of song that feels like it's always existed, waiting to be remembered. The camera slowly circles SpongeBob, capturing his side profile in the warm flicker of the candlelight, with the oceanic glow filling the room behind him. His eyes reflect the moving light, each jellyfish pulse mirrored as tiny stars swimming in his gaze. The water outside seems alive, breathing, rising and falling with invisible tides. He closes the book gently, placing a hand on the cover. The words fade back into stillness, the glow settling. but the dreamlike calm lingers in the air, stretching beyond the room, beyond the rain. For a moment there's no sound at all, just the slow exhale of the ocean and the faint flicker of light across his face. And then softly, the rain returns. A new wave of droplets taps against the window, slow, sleepy, steady. The rhythm feels familiar now, like a heartbeat or a song from long ago. SpongeBob smiles again, his voice barely audible. I think, I like rainy nights. The camera drifts toward the window, where the jellyfish slowly fade into the mist. The candle's reflection lingers one last time before melting into the waves. And the only thing that remains is the sound of the rain, soft, gentle, endless. The rain whispers softly against the glass, not hurried, not heavy, just steady. A rhythm that never falters. Inside the quiet pineapple house, the candle still flickers near the open book, though its light now feels softer, as if the air itself is glowing. SpongeBob's eyes have grown hazy, his posture relaxed. His body still in this world, but his thoughts floating somewhere else entirely. He breathes in slowly, the scent of rain and wax filling his lungs. Then for just a moment everything stops. No sound, no motion, only the faint hum of the ocean's current beyond the walls. And in that silence, SpongeBob feels something shift. He blinks. The room no longer feels solid. The desk beneath his hands is fading, his wooden texture dissolving into gentle waves of light. He looks down, his reflection glimmers faintly in the surface, as though the table were made of still water. The candle flame reflects beside it, a tiny sun floating in an underwater sky. He looks around. The bookshelves have become coral shelves, each book turning into shells that open and close as if breathing. The framed photos now drift slowly, suspended in the water, their edges soft, colors muted by the sea. In each one, the smiles move faintly, alive but dreamlike. SpongeBob blinks again, and this time, he's no longer sitting. He's floating. The blanket that had been around his shoulders now trails like a flowing ribbon behind him. The book hovers just below, its pages turning on their own, words shimmering in bioluminescent light. He moves a hand through the air, and the water parts softly, glowing where he touches it. Tiny bubbles rise from his fingertips, carrying fragments of light upward, disappearing into the soft blue above. It feels natural, as though this were where he's always belonged. The rain sound continues, but now it's different. It no longer hits glass. It falls through water, a muffled silvery rhythm, like 1,000 needy chimes echoing through the ocean. The candle flame drifts by him, its glow unharmed, a small orb of warmth moving lazily through the blue. And then, from somewhere deeper in the water, a voice hums. It's low, calm, melodic. Not a person, maybe the ocean itself. Maybe the song from the book. It's wordless, but it feels familiar, like the laughter of jellyfish, or the hum of the Krusty Krab's neon sign on a quiet night. SpongeBob drifts closer to the sound. The book follows, still open, the pages glowing brighter with each passing second. And then there, through the faint veil of mist and light, he sees something. The sailorfish. The same one from the story. He's standing at the bow of the glowing sailboat, rain falling softly around him, singing into the sea. Each note he hums becomes a wave of light that travels through the water soft and wide, passing through SpongeBob's chest like warmth. It feels peaceful. SpongeBob moves closer. The sailorfish looks up and smiles as if recognizing him. His voice carries through the water, clear and calm. You found it too. SpongeBob tilts his head, his voice small but steady. Found what? The quiet, the sailorfish replies. It hides in the rain. For a long moment, they just float there. The rain continues to fall, but instead of drops, it's like strands of light, descending slowly from somewhere above threads connecting sky and sea. SpongeBob watches them shimmer, the same rhythm that had once tapped on his window now falling through the water, endless and slow. The camera drifts around them wide, panoramic, showing the infinite seascape. Glowing coral fields stretch into the distance. Gentle rain-like currents move in ribbons through the blue. The sailboat drifts silently, its sails rippling like silk. Above, faint outlines of the surface shimmer, and beyond that, a moon glows faintly, a reminder of the world above. SpongeBob breathes, though he doesn't need to. The water feels like air, cool, kind, alive. He looks around, eyes wide, filled with wonder. Every sound, every flicker of light, every drifting bubble feels perfect, like the ocean is whispering a bedtime story directly to him. He turns to the sailorfish again. Do you stay here? He asks softly. Only when it rains, the sailorfish replies, smiling. When the rain stops, the stories sleep again. SpongeBob looks down at the book still floating beside him. The pages are blank now, the story finished. But the light around them continues to pulse, steady and calm, like the heartbeat of the ocean. He reaches out to touch the last page. It ripples under his hand, and for a moment, he sees his own room reflected there, the candle, the window, the chair. A reminder that this place, this dream, began with something simple. Reading by the rain. The camera zooms slowly on SpongeBob's face, eyes half closed, peaceful. He smiles faintly and whispers, I think I'll stay a little longer. The music softens, just the hum of the rain, the echo of the sailorfish's song, and the distant shimmer of bubbles rising. The frame fades to a soft blur of blue and gold as SpongeBob floats still, surrounded by drifting light. The world around SpongeBob begins to soften. The glowing threads of rain become faint, their shimmer growing pale as though dawn is approaching. The ocean's hum fades into a single, gentle note, long and low, like a final chord played on a harp beneath the sea. He looks around, watching as the sailorfish and his glowing sailboat drift into the mist, their light dissolving into the distance. The book that had floated beside him starts to close on its own. Each page folds slowly, soundlessly, the glow dimming until only the golden edges remain. When it shuts completely, the last wave of light ripples outward, touching SpongeBob's hand, the coral below, the water above. Then everything stills. He feels something soft against his cheek, not water, but air, a cool, gentle breeze. He blinks once, twice. The blue of the ocean fades into the amber light of the candle again. The dream dissolves. He's back in his little room, sitting by the window. Outside, the rain continues, but it's softer now, more like a whisper than a song. The window pane glows faintly with the reflection of the moon and the faint shimmer of street bubbles outside. Gary still sits curled beside him, his shell rising and falling with tiny breaths. Everything feels exactly the same as before, and yet not the same at all. SpongeBob looks down at the book. It's still open to the last page. The words are perfectly still, printed in soft black ink. No light, no movement. But somehow the silence feels alive. He runs a finger gently along the edge of the paper and smiles. When the last raindrop touched the ocean's heart, it became light, shining through the deep forever. He whispers the line again, this time slower, letting it linger in the air. His voice barely louder than the rain outside. It echoes softly around the room, a sleepy echo, fading like a dream being folded back into memory. The candle beside him is smaller now. Its flame has shrunk into a tiny golden tear, swaying gently with the draft. He cups a hand around it to keep it from going out. For a moment, his face is bathed in the warm, glow-yellow skin against orange light, eyes half closed, peaceful. The glow reflects on the window, creating two flickering shapes, SpongeBob and the candle, side by side, framed by rain and moonlight. The camera pulls back slowly, capturing the whole room once more. The desk, the book, the candle, the sleeping snail, the misted glass. The rain outside continues to fall, slower and softer with every passing minute. Through the glass, faint silhouettes of jellyfish pass by, their glow pale in the early light. Then a faint change. The darkness outside begins to lift. The storm clouds fade into pale blues and grays. The surface water above the city lightens, rippling faintly with the first touch of morning. Sunlight is returning to Bikini Bottom. Inside, SpongeBob watches it happen, the transformation from night to dawn reflected in his eyes. He leans his head against the window pane, feeling the faint vibration of the last raindrops. The water outside catches the early rays of light, turning every droplet into a tiny star. And for a moment, it's as if the ocean sky has become a mirror of the night above stars and bubbles, moon and waves, blending into one soft, endless glow. He turns to Gary, whispering, "It's morning, buddy." Gary opens one sleepy eye, meows softly, and nestles closer. SpongeBob giggles quietly, brushing a finger across his shell. The laughter doesn't disturb the calm. It melts perfectly into it, like sunlight blending into sea foam. He closes the book gently and sets it beside the candle. Then, stretching his arms and wrapping the blanket tighter around his shoulders, he lets out a quiet yawn. His voice drifts out with the rhythm of the rain. What a nice night. Even the rain was cozy. The camera pans upward, following SpongeBob's gaze out the window. The rain slows to a drizzle. The moon fades behind pale morning clouds, replaced by soft beams of light filtering through the ocean surface. Bubbles shimmer like tiny lanterns in the current. The world feels clean, refreshed, quiet, and new. SpongeBob closes his eyes again. The blanket slips slightly as he rests his head against the desk, the candle's last flame reflected in his half-open book. The rain gives one final hush, a few lingering drops tapping gently against the window before stopping completely. Silence, but not an empty one. A full, peaceful silence, the kind that holds warmth. The final camera shot pulls away from the pineapple house, showing the quiet streets of Bikini Bottom. The rain has ended. Puddles reflect the soft morning light, and the ocean current hums a sleepy tune. Jellyfish glide above rooftops, their glow faint but comforting. Squidward's window curtain moves slightly, maybe he's waking up too. Patrick's rock twitches once, then settles again. And there, through the soft golden mist, SpongeBob's house glows faintly. Through the window, we can still see him, asleep at his desk, the book closed beside the candle's last wisp of smoke. Outside, a single droplet clings to the window frame. It catches the sunlight for a brief moment, shining bright like a pearl, then falls away into the calm sea. The sound returns, not rain now, but the gentle hum of waves. It fades slowly, softly, into silence. The room is still. The rain continues its soft rhythm outside, tapping gently against the curved glass windows of the pineapple house. Each drop glides down slowly, leaving behind tiny streaks of moonlight. Inside the candle, on SpongeBob's desk, flickers faintly, its reflection shimmering across the floor. Gary opens one eye. For a moment, he doesn't move, just listens. The world is half asleep, wrapped in a soft echo of rain. From his little corner near the bed, Gary watches the patterns of light ripple across the floor. He can hear the steady hum of the sea outside, deep, low, and constant, like the ocean breathing in its sleep. The air smells faintly of melted wax and kelp tea. SpongeBob's blanket shifts slightly in the background, a quiet reminder that his owner is still there, reading, dreaming, or perhaps already dozing off by the window. Gary blinks slowly and stretches, his shell glowing faintly in the candlelight. He moves forward, the faint shh sound of his trail mixing with the rhythm of the rain. His little antennae twitch toward the window where soft blue light glows from the water beyond. Outside, jellyfish drift past like slow comets, their tendrils flickering pink and violet. Gary watches them with quiet fascination. Their calm motion mirrors his own slow pace, his quiet life. He pauses at the edge of the rug where SpongeBob's slippers rest, half tilted against each other. One has a small sponge-shaped button on top, slightly bent. Gary nudges it softly with his eye stalk, a gesture somewhere between curiosity and affection. Then he turns toward his favorite corner, a small, cozy space near the base of SpongeBob's bed. It's a simple setup, a seashell bowl, a patch of soft sponge fabric, and a framed picture of SpongeBob and Gary at Jellyfish Fields. The frame has tiny bubbles painted around the edges. Gary slides into the corner, the soft padding squishing gently under him. He turns once, twice, then settles down, his shell facing the flickering candle. The camera slowly zooms in. We can see the faint reflection of the flame on his shell, a golden spiral turning lazily in the dim light. He hums softly. Not a song, not a word, just a vibration that seems to join the rhythm of the rain. It's his own little tune, the sound of comfort and stillness. The scene is quiet, but alive with details. Tiny bubbles drift across the ceiling from the leaking faucet in the kitchen. The wall clock ticks faintly, its hands moving slower than usual. The window light trembles slightly each time the current shifts outside. A single jellyfish passes by, leaving a blue glow across the room for a few seconds. Gary's eyes follow it until it disappears. Then he lowers his head a little, curling into his shell, not to sleep yet, but to rest. The candle's glow creates small ripples on the curved surface of his shell, and the reflection dances like waves of gold. Through the faint hum of the ocean, we hear SpongeBob's voice, distant and sleepy. A gentle mumble, maybe a dream, maybe a word he whispered without knowing. Gary raises his head for a moment, listening, then gives a quiet, reassuring meow. It's soft, just enough to fill the space with a touch of warmth. He doesn't need to go to SpongeBob's side. He knows his friend is okay. Sometimes in nights like this, the best kind of care is just being there quietly, sharing the same air, the same rhythm of rain. Gary looks toward the candle again. Its flame flickers twice, then steadies. He watches the light reflect in the small puddle of wax below, where two tiny air bubbles rise slowly and pop. Everything feels timeless, as if the night itself has paused to breathe. The camera pulls back slightly, showing the whole room again from Gary's point of view. SpongeBob resting by the window, his face half lit by candlelight. the book still open beside him. The rain outside painting streaks of silver against the glass. And in the corner, Gary Small, silent and content, glowing faintly in the quiet storm. He gives one last gentle meow, then lowers his head and closes his eyes halfway. The soft light flickers over him like a lullaby made of color. The rain outside deepens for a moment and fades again into calm. And in that stillness, SpongeBob and Gary share the kind of silence that feels full, a silence that speaks of comfort, home, and the unspoken warmth of being together. The rain outside continues, soft and rhythmic, a steady percussion of droplets tapping against the coral windows. Each tap seems to echo differently, some sharp and clear, some muffled and deep, blending into the ocean's hum. It's not just sound, it's texture. It wraps the pineapple home in layers of comfort. Gary lifts his head slowly. The candle on the desk is burned lower now. The wax has begun to form little rivers down its sides, pooling into tiny lakes of gold. Shadows move across the walls like living ink, swaying softly with the flame. He blinks twice, his eyes adjusting to the dimmer light, and then begins to move again, slow, steady, unhurried. The faint sound of his trail mixing with the rain almost feels musical. It's as if the whole room is breathing in sync with him. SpongeBob's gentle breaths, the candle's flicker, and the distant rumble of the sea above. He moves past the corner of SpongeBob's bookshelf. On the lowest shelf, a few old comic books are stacked unevenly. The Adventures of Mermaid Man, Jellyfish Weekly, and Snail Gourmet. The corners are curled, pages slightly damp from the underwater air. Gary pauses there, curious. One page flutters open from a passing bubble current, showing a colorful drawing of a hero snail wearing a cape. Gary tilts his eye stalks, amused, maybe even proud, as if imagining himself in the picture. He nudges the comic gently closed, then continues along the floor, leaving a faint, glowing trail that glistens like moonlight. The camera follows his slow path. Gliding at floor level, everything from his view looks larger, almost monumental. The curve of SpongeBob's chair leg like a pillar, the puddle of candlelight like a miniature ocean. He passes a fallen pencil, its wood darkened by moisture. He pauses beside it, his eyes reflecting the yellow sheen, and taps it softly with his shell. It rolls forward a little, bumping into SpongeBob's slipper with a muted thunk. For a brief second, SpongeBob stirs in his sleep, murmuring something soft, maybe, "Good night, Gary," before settling back again. Gary stops, motionless, then gives a faint, affectionate meow, quieter than a whisper. He turns toward the window next. Outside, the jellyfish are still floating by, glowing faintly pink and gold against the misty blue background. The rain has softened into a drizzle now, more like a dream than weather. Tiny currents move across the glass like slow lightning. Gary climbs onto the window ledge, the soft cushion under him squeaking slightly. From here, the view is magical. Bikini Bottom sleeps under the rainy glow, the rooftops shimmer like wet shells. The Krusty Krab's neon sign flickers in the distance, half faded by the fog. A small bubble bus passes by, glowing softly, leaving ripples of light behind it. Gary presses closer to the glass. Each raindrop is a small world reflecting stars, jellyfish, and SpongeBob's warm lamplight. He watches his own reflection ripple across the pane, and for a moment, it looks like two snails, one inside, one outside, separated only by water and light. He blinks slowly, a faint hum leaving his throat, something peaceful, ancient, instinctive. The soundscape is gentle. Rain pattering against glass. The occasional bubble popping softly in the corner. The faint buzz of the lamp. The low lull of SpongeBob's breathing. Gary turns away from the window and looks toward the desk. On it sits a small jar filled with seashells, each one glowing faintly from the reflection of the candle. He approaches slowly, climbing the base of the desk leg with small, careful movements. His body leaves little shimmering trails that sparkle in the half-light. At the top, he pauses beside the jar. Each shell inside looks like a tiny memory. Pink, coral, silver, gold. Gary nudges one with his eye stalk, making a gentle clink. A small shell rolls out, falling onto the desk surface with a soft sound. Gary watches it spin, then stop near the candle's base. The flame wavers for a moment, catching the light off the shell's curved surface. It looks almost like a moon. Gary leans closer, fascinated. Still, and in the reflection, we see SpongeBob's silhouette behind him, sleeping with a soft smile. The camera pans slowly around, circling Gary and the candle, showing both the small details and the sense of scale. The snail, the flickering flame, the sleeping sponge. It's not grand or loud, but it feels alive, every inch of it humming with calm energy. Gary lowers his eyes again, settling next to the candle's soft warmth. He doesn't mind that it's burning low. He seems to enjoy the company of its fading light. Outside, the thunder murmurs once more, deep and distant, like a heartbeat under the ocean. Gary listens. He understands that sound. It's the same rhythm as the sea, the same rhythm as his own slow, patient life. He hums again, a longer sound this time, more like a lullaby. And the rain, the candle, the waves, they all seem to respond, matching his tone. The house feels smaller now, quieter, but not empty. It feels full of peace. The candlelight wavers gently as Gary lowers himself back down from the desk, inch by inch, leaving behind a soft, shimmering path. The floor below is darker now. Shadows gather in the corners, faintly shaped by the flicker of SpongeBob's bedside lamp. The rain outside continues its endless rhythm, sometimes faint, sometimes fuller, as if the ocean breathes through it. Gary pauses beside SpongeBob's bed again. The blanket is shifted a little from SpongeBob's shoulder. The edge flutters faintly with each soft breath he takes. Gary moves closer, the dim reflection of the candlelight dancing across his shell. He stretches up, gently nudging the blanket back over SpongeBob's arm, just a tiny gesture, but tender and deliberate. SpongeBob stirs slightly, his lips curving into a sleepy smile. For a moment, both are still. The world seems to pause. The camera lingers here, focusing on the tiny details. SpongeBob's eyelashes flickering under the soft glow. The blanket's faint movement with each breath. The candle's reflection rippling across the watery air. The sound is almost non-existent now, only the rain remains quiet and comforting. The kind of sound that doesn't demand to be heard, it simply exists, filling the silence like a gentle hug. Gary slowly turns his head toward the nightstand beside the bed. On it sits a small framed picture, SpongeBob holding Gary as a baby snail, both smiling widely in front of their pineapple house. The photo is slightly tilted, and the frame's glass speckled with faint droplets of condensation. Gary moves closer, gazing at it for a long time. His eye stalks move slowly, back and forth, tracing the outlines of the picture, SpongeBob's wide grin, the tiny shell he once fit into. The candle's flame behind him makes the photo glow softly, like a memory shining through time. Gary hums again, low, rhythmic, almost like a whisper to the photo itself. a sound only SpongeBob might understand, even in sleep. As he looks on, the rain intensifies for a moment, a few louder taps against the window, followed by a deep rumble from the distance. Lightning flickers softly, not harsh or frightening, just a pale blue flash that fills the room for a second before fading. The light touches everything, the shelves, the walls, Gary's shell, and then melts back into gold as the candle steadies again. Gary continues to move slowly along the side of the bed. He stops near SpongeBob's slippers, one of them slightly tipped over. Without much effort, he nudges it back into place. It's a simple action, but in the soft glow and stillness, it feels monumental, the quiet care of one soul for another. The camera lowers, following Gary's slow movement past the base of the bed, through the patterns of faint reflections on the floor. Tiny air bubbles drift upward from somewhere unseen, catching bits of light as they rise. Each bubble wobbles softly, like miniature moons in the watery air. In the background, SpongeBob's breathing slows even further, deep, steady, peaceful. His chest rises and falls like the tide. The blanket shifts faintly, casting a small moving shadow that dances across the floor near Gary's trail. Gary pauses again and looks up. From his small height, the ceiling seems miles away, fading into gentle darkness. The faint hum of the rain echoes through the hollow spaces of the room, giving it depth like a vast underwater cave filled with echoes of calm. He turns toward his own bed now, the small shell-lined nest SpongeBob made for him. It sits near the corner of the room, slightly raised, with a tiny lamp glowing beside it, shaped like a seashell, glowing soft pink. Gary moves toward it slowly, his trail glimmering behind him in the dimness. The lamp's soft light reflects off his shell, blending pink and blue like the last colors of sunset. As he nears the bed, the sound of rain becomes fainter again, as though the storm itself is beginning to drift away into the distance. Each drop that hits the window now sounds softer, rounder, like notes in a lullaby. Gary climbs into his little nest, curling his body neatly into the curve of his shell. The pink light shines faintly on the surface of the shell, revealing tiny spiral reflections that move with the candle flame's rhythm. The camera begins a slow circular motion, gliding around him. Every object in the frame feels serene. SpongeBob's blanket, glowing golden in the candlelight. The faint ripples of blue outside the window. The tiny shell lamp casting its warm halo. The gentle bubble drift that still rises from unseen corners. Gary blinks once, twice, then settles completely. He doesn't close his eyes all the way, snails don't need to. Instead, he stares softly at the pink light beside him until it blurs, melting into the warmth of the room. A faint sigh escapes him, a slow, airy sound, and then even that fades, replaced by stillness. For a long moment, the only thing left is rain, faint, beautiful, endless. It taps like fingers against the window, matching the rhythm of SpongeBob's breathing and Gary's steady heartbeat. Outside, the jellyfish drift past once more, glowing faintly through the mist, like guardians watching over their dreams. The camera slowly rises upward, giving one last view of the quiet bedroom. SpongeBob in deep sleep, Gary curled up peacefully, and the candle flickering at the edge of the frame. Its flame dances one final time before dimming slightly, its light folding gently into shadow. The rain has become a whisper now. Each drop outside lands softly, absorbed by the underwater mist that wraps the entire town in a dreamlike glow. Inside the pineapple house, everything rests still and beautiful, as though time itself has stopped to listen. Gary's tiny lamp flickers once more, its soft pink glow reflecting faintly on the shelves around his bed. The flame-like shimmer ripples along the curve of his shell, tracing delicate spirals that seem to pulse with the rhythm of his breath. In the distance, SpongeBob lets out a faint murmur, something that sounds like a word but fades before it can be understood. Maybe it's a dream. Maybe it's a memory. But it's peaceful. The camera lingers between them, SpongeBob and Gary, framed in the warm, flickering light. The composition is gentle. SpongeBob in the background, his face half lit by candlelight, and Gary curled up in the foreground, his body forming a small, glowing spiral. Between them, the air is filled with faint motes of light, tiny underwater particles drifting like stars in the current. The soundscape is layered and soft, the distant hum of the sea, a faint trickle from a bubble filter somewhere off-screen, rain tapping lightly against the coral glass, the smallest echo of SpongeBob's breath. As the camera moves closer, you can see the faint movement of SpongeBob's chest rising and falling, perfectly synchronized with the rhythm of the rain. Every exhale sends a ripple through the air, subtle but visible, bending the light just slightly. It's like the whole room breathes with him. Gary blinks slowly. His eyes move once toward SpongeBob, then toward the candle's faint flame. He gives one last soft meow, barely audible, more like a sigh of contentment than a sound. The candle wavers again, responding, as if the room itself heard and answered back. The flame steadies. The shadows shift, settling into new shapes, soft arcs across the walls, edges rounded by the water's distortion. Everything feels slower now, deeper, more dreamlike. The golden light blends into the blue tones of the room until they meet in a soft lavender haze. The transition between color and shadow becomes seamless, almost imperceptible, like a gentle fade into sleep. Outside, the storm is moving away. The once heavy clouds begin to dissolve into soft ribbons of mist. Through the window, faint moonlight filters down from the surface, illuminating the raindrops still clinging to the glass. They sparkle faintly tiny constellations of the underwater world. Jellyfish float lazily by, their lights pulsing slower and slower until they too seem to rest. Inside, the last candle flickers again, a small dance of gold on the wall before dimming slightly. Its wax has melted into a perfect circle, reflecting the flame like a miniature pond. A bubble escapes from its edge, rising quietly toward the ceiling. It catches the light for a moment before vanishing into the stillness above. The camera glides past Gary's bed now. We see his shell gleaming softly, the pink lamp reflecting a faint halo on the surface. He's completely still, not frozen, but deeply at peace. His breathing is too soft to hear, too gentle to disturb the air. The world around him hums with quiet, that perfect kind of silence that feels alive, like the ocean holding its breath. SpongeBob shifts slightly, one arm falling off the bed and hanging in the air. For a moment, the camera lingers on his fingers, relaxed, open, childlike. Then, in slow motion, a single bubble detaches from the ceiling above and drifts down, catching the reflection of both him and Gary inside its curved surface. It floats between them for a long moment, reflecting light, flickering gold and blue before landing softly on SpongeBob's hand and popping in silence. The light fades even more now. The candle finally grows dim, its flame curling smaller and smaller until it becomes a faint ember. The pink lamp glows alone, softer with each passing second. The frame darkens gradually, not with sudden shadow, but like a soft blanket pulling itself over the scene. A faint melody begins, almost imperceptible at first, like a lullaby being remembered rather than played. It blends with the sound of the rain, rising and falling in a rhythm that feels both natural and ancient. The notes are long, slow, and warm, echoing through the quiet space like echoes in a seashell. Gary's eyes close completely now. SpongeBob exhales deeply, the kind of breath that comes only when sleep has reached its deepest point. For the first time, the room is utterly still. The camera begins to pull back very slowly. We move past Gary's little lamp, the shell bed, the puddle of candle wax, the softly glowing photo on the nightstand. We glide past SpongeBob's bed, his blanket rising and falling in calm rhythm. The window comes back into frame, raindrops clinging to it like jewels under moonlight. Outside, the jellyfish have gone. Only the faint shimmer of the ocean remains. As we pull further back, the house becomes a soft shape in the distance, surrounded by mist and light. The pineapple glows faintly, like a lantern beneath the sea. The rain continues, faint and steady, a lullaby for the whole of Bikini Bottom. The last sound you hear before silence takes over is the slow hum of the ocean, deep, warm, eternal. Then everything fades, the lights, the sounds, the colors, until only darkness remains. The rain outside has slowed to a gentle whisper, not gone, but softened, as if the ocean itself is tired now. Each droplet falls through the water like liquid glass, shimmering faintly before vanishing into the deep blue. Inside SpongeBob's pineapple house, the candle is burned out, leaving behind a thin ribbon of smoke that swirls lazily towards the ceiling. The air glows faintly blue, lavender, and gold, a blend of light that feels almost alive. SpongeBob's room is silent except for the steady rhythm of his breathing. Gary lies motionless beside his little pink lamp, his shell glinting like a polished pearl. The soft hum of the current moves through the window, making the curtains sway ever so slightly. It's the kind of quiet that fills the heart rather than empties it, the kind of peace that doesn't need music because it is music. Slowly the camera pans upward. The ceiling above glows with faint reflections of the outside rain, distorted by the shape of the pineapple walls. Each ripple catches the last traces of the candlelight and turns it into flowing rivers of light. They drift and bend together, merging in a pattern that looks almost like waves gently folding into one another. SpongeBob stirs. His eyelids flutter, not from discomfort, but as if something beautiful is calling him from far away. He isn't quite awake, and he isn't fully asleep either, suspended in that delicate space where thoughts become pictures and pictures dissolve into dreams. His hand, resting on the edge of his bed, moves slightly, brushing against a tiny seashell that had fallen earlier. The shell tinkles faintly as it rolls onto the floor, the softest sound, but somehow it echoes deeply, like the beginning of a melody. Outside, the rain starts to glow faintly. Tiny droplets fall like silver threads, illuminated by the moonlight filtering through the surface. In that shimmering light, something begins to happen. The boundary between the sea and the sky blurs. Jellyfish appear again, floating slowly upward, their tendrils pulsing with soft pink and cayenne hues. The ocean seems to breathe with them, a slow, rhythmic expansion of color and calm. The scene transitions smoothly now, almost imperceptibly. SpongeBob's eyelids close once more, and the sound of the rain fades, replaced by something deeper, a soft, resonant hum that seems to come from the heart of the sea itself. The camera zooms closer to SpongeBob's face. His expression is peaceful, the corners of his mouth curled slightly upward like someone smiling in their sleep. And then as the camera focuses on his reflection in a droplet clinging to the window, we see it change the light inside it, turning from gold to pure ocean blue. The reflection shimmers, and suddenly, we are no longer in SpongeBob's room. We are drifting in an endless expanse of water, not dark, but filled with light that moves like slow music. Shapes begin to form corals, bubbles, distant silhouettes of fish. It's not quite real, not quite imaginary. This is the world of dreams, where thoughts float freely through the water. The soundscape here is mesmerizing. Deep ocean currents humming softly, like the earth breathing. The echo of raindrops turn to tones, like bells ringing underwater. Faint laughter, SpongeBob's own, distant and childlike, carried through the water like a memory. He floats gently now, suspended in the middle of the glowing blue sea. His pajamas flow with the current, and his outline glows faintly against the light. Every movement sends ripples outward, like the dream itself responding to his presence. Small jellyfish drift past him, leaving trails of luminescent mist that curl and fade behind them. He reaches out, not with intent, but instinctively, and touches one of the glowing strands. It dissolves into tiny bubbles, which spiral around his fingers before vanishing upward. The bubbles carry faint reflections, moments from the evening that just passed. The flickering candle, Gary's soft meow, the window glowing with rain. Each bubble is a memory, floating upward into the calm. The camera follows one of these bubbles as it rises. It drifts past schools of tiny glowing fish, past coral branches that pulse like living light. The background fades into deeper blue until we see the faint outline of SpongeBob's house in the distance, now glowing softly like a lantern beneath the sea. The bubble continues to rise, carrying a small echo of SpongeBob's laughter. As it breaks into the open water, the sound changes. The hum deepens, becoming more musical. A melody begins to form, slow, resonant, like a lullaby played on the strings of the ocean itself. Each note blends seamlessly with the sound of distant rain. It's unclear if it's real or imagined, and that's the beauty of it. The camera slowly returns to SpongeBob. He's still drifting, eyes closed, face serene. The water around him glows in waves of pastel light, lavender, mint, pearl blue, soft coral pink. He isn't falling asleep anymore. He's within sleep inside a dream that belongs to the sea itself. And as the light around him grows brighter, the last trace of rain fades completely, replaced by stillness, the pure silence of deep ocean rest. The dream unfolds slowly, like the tide coming in after a long, quiet night. SpongeBob drifts through the glowing water, eyes closed but smiling faintly, his arms relaxed at his sides. The ocean around him isn't dark anymore. It's painted in soft pastels, the kind that feel like they were brushed by moonlight itself. Light ripples dance across the sand below, creating delicate patterns that shift like whispers. Above him, the jellyfish pulse in slow motion, glowing pink, lavender, and turquoise, their bodies flickering with the same rhythm as SpongeBob's breathing. Each time they glow, the whole ocean seems to blink in gentle sync, as though the sea is breathing with him. He hears something faintly, not a voice, not music, but a soft, wordless hum. It's the sound of the ocean remembering. The rain that once fell outside his window now echoes deep in the current, like raindrops turned into dreams. Tiny particles of light drift around him, memories turn to motion. In each flicker, Images appear for a moment, then fade. SpongeBob sitting by the window and tracing raindrops with his finger. A page turning softly in his book. Gary curling up near the lamp, blinking once slowly. They swirl like little lanterns, fragments of the night replaying gently inside the ocean of sleep. SpongeBob's eyelids flutter open for a second. He's aware, but not awake. He looks around with that soft, curious expression he always has when something wonderful but strange is happening. The dream feels real, the water warm, the colors alive. And yet, it's quiet. There's no rush, no fear, no sound except the slow rhythm of the sea. He sees the outline of his home far away now, glowing like an ember in the distance. Its windows shimmer with golden light, just as they did before he fell asleep. The light pulses faintly, like a heartbeat. SpongeBob tilts his head slightly, watching it fade behind coral branches that move like silk ribbons. He smiles, as if saying goodbye to his waking world. The camera moves closer, a soft pan around SpongeBob's face, capturing the calm that's rarely seen in his usual bubbly energy. He's at peace here, free from the noise of work, from the chaos of jellyfish stings, from the frying sounds of patties. The sea has taken every sound and turned it into harmony. The scene widens again, and the audience sees him drifting through an open underwater meadow, the coral glowing dimly now, swaying gently. It looks like the entire ocean is rocking him to sleep. A single bubble escapes from his mouth, floating upward. Inside it, we glimpse a reflection, SpongeBob and Patrick laughing together under the rain earlier that day, running through puddles outside the Krusty Krab. The memory fades as the bubble drifts upward and pops, scattering faint sparkles into the current. Each sparkle becomes a tiny star that stays suspended in the water. Soft choral hums begin to echo through the dream-low, distant voices that sound like the ocean itself singing. It's as if the sea has a lullaby when it only sings for those who truly belong beneath the waves. The melody is slow, each note drawn out like a sigh. With every hum, the light pulses brighter around SpongeBob, illuminating his form like a living lantern. Gary appears in the distance, not crawling, but floating gently, his shell glowing faintly like a little moon. He moves toward SpongeBob, leaving a trail of tiny, luminous bubbles behind him. When he reaches a SpongeBob, he settles on his shoulder and closes his eyes. Then the two drift together, side by side, the way they always end every night. The camera pulls back, showing them as small figures in a vast expanse of soft blue and violet. The water ripples in long, slow waves, no wind, no current, just motion that feels like breathing. All around them, tiny lights begin to rise upward, like stars being born underwater. A gentle narration could fit here if you ever voice it. When the world grows quiet, even the sea listens. And when the rain ends, its echoes become dreams that never stop drifting. The light grows softer still. Jellyfish fade into silhouettes. The coral meadows become a watercolor wash of color. Every line, every edge melts slightly, giving the world that hazy softness that dreams have right before you forget them. SpongeBob's eyes close again. Gary curls into a ball on his shoulder. Their breathing sinks with the faint hum of the ocean. A few final bubbles drift upward, glowing like tiny moons, and then slowly the scene fades to an expanse of dark blue. But not black, never black. Just the blue of calm, of deep sleep, of infinite peace. The kind of blue that feels endless, like the ocean itself has fallen asleep with them. The sea hums softly now, not like a sound you hear, but one you feel, It vibrates through the water, through SpongeBob's body, through the silence itself. He drifts with Gary by his side, both surrounded by shimmering clouds of light that pulse like the heartbeat of the ocean. Every motion is slow, the kind of slowness that only dreams can hold. The colors begin to shift again. The ocean, that was once soft blue, now deepens into a mixture of turquoise and violets, glowing from within like a giant living lantern. Around them, thousands of glowing jellyfish drift lazily through the water, their light trailing like ribbons in the current. Each jellyfish leaves a glowing path, streaks of light that fade slowly, like shooting stars underwater. SpongeBob turns slightly, gazing upward. The surface is far above, glowing faintly, a distant shimmer that looks almost like a sky full of stars. For a moment, it's hard to tell if he's under the ocean or floating in space. The two realms, sea and sky, merge seamlessly, like dreams merging into each other. He reaches a hand out. Tiny bubbles rise from his fingers, each one capturing a small reflection. The Krusty Krab, the Pineapple House, Patrick's smiling face. They drift away, and SpongeBob watches them with a fond, sleepy smile. He doesn't chase them. He just lets them go one by one, watching as they disappear into the shimmering horizon. A slow, echoing whale call vibrates through the dream. It's deep, distant, but full of warmth, like the voice of something ancient and kind. The sound ripples through the water, and as it does, the jellyfish around SpongeBob respond, glowing brighter for a moment before dimming again. The light ripples outward in waves like music turned into color. Gary hums softly, not a meow, but a deep, resonant vibration that matches the tone of the ocean. It feels like he understands the song, as if the whale's voice is speaking to both of them in a language older than words. SpongeBob places a hand gently on Gary's shell, feeling the vibration flow between them. His eyes soften, a quiet joy washing over him. The camera slowly circles around them. They drift through fields of floating coral, glowing pink and gold, each coral gently waving in the invisible currents. Tiny fish, shaped like glowing teardrops, swim past in slow arcs. Some spiral upward, some downward, but all move with a quiet rhythm that feels like breathing. The background sound design here would be faint layers of soft, filtered whale calls, gentle wave hums, and the occasional sparkle of bubbles rising. No melody, just flow like nature's lullaby. As SpongeBob and Gary continue drifting, the ocean begins to open up, the seabed falling away beneath them into a vast, glowing canyon. Below, streams of light twist and flow like rivers of color, glowing gold, teal, and violet. It's as if the ocean has veins of light, carrying dreams instead of water. SpongeBob looks down, mesmerized. He drifts closer, letting the glow bathe his face in a warm color. It's beautiful but peaceful, not overwhelming. His expression is soft, reflective, calm. In one glowing stream, an image appears SpongeBob at the Krusty Krab, flipping a Krabby Patty while humming to himself. He watches it, smiling, as if seeing a memory from far away. In another stream, Patrick appears, standing in the rain, holding a jellyfish net, laughing at nothing in particular. Then another Squidward by his window, painting in silence as the rain falls outside. Each scene drifts by like a memory made of light, moving gently through the dream current. SpongeBob's eyes glisten not with sadness, but with warmth. He isn't lonely. He's grateful. Every glowing memory feels like a gift from the sea, a reminder of everything that makes life beautiful in its small, simple ways. He floats closer to one of the glowing rivers, reaching out again. This time, instead of a bubble, his hand passes through light. Ripples spread outward, and for a brief moment, the dream shimmers like broken glass. The images shift and swirl, then reform into something new, a single large bubble surrounding him and Gary. Inside the bubble, the world changes. They're back in SpongeBob's living room, but it's not quite real. The furniture floats slightly, as though underwater. Raindrops tap softly on the window, even though they're still beneath the sea. The lamp glows with the same warm light from before the one Gary fell asleep under. SpongeBob looks around, realizing that this isn't the real room. It's a dream echo, a comfort space his mind built to rest in. He drifts slowly toward his favorite armchair. It's waiting for him, soft and glowing faintly in the dark. He sits down, Gary curling beside him, both weightless but calm. The book from earlier appears on the small table beside him. Its pages flutter open on their own, though the words inside are unreadable. They look like waves frozen mid-motion. He looks at them for a moment, then smiles again and closes it gently. Some stories don't need to be read. They only need to be felt. The dream hum grows quieter, now fading into a slow, distant echo. The room around them darkens slightly, like the night has deepened even within the dream. SpongeBob leans back, eyelids growing heavier. The ocean, the rain, the light all begin to blur together, melting into a single feeling of calm. The final shot of this part would slowly pull away from the room, through the window into the glowing underwater night, showing the faint silhouette of the whale passing far above, its tail sweeping softly, its song echoing one last time. The dream is now at its softest. Everything has slowed into silence. The underwater world no longer feels vast or mysterious. It feels close, like a warm blanket made of light and water. SpongeBob sits peacefully in his dream room, the faint glow of his lamp swaying gently as if moved by the rhythm of invisible waves. Gary rests beside him, breathing slow, eyes closed, shell glimmering faintly in the dimness. The sound of the rain is almost gone now, just a distant patter, soft as memory. Each drop falls like a tiny note in a forgotten song, fading before it can echo. SpongeBob watches the last few ripples form on the window's surface, smiling faintly. He reaches out, touches the glass. It ripples slightly beneath his hand, like water. And through it, he can see the vast ocean beyond, calm and endless. He whispers something quietly, just one word, maybe good night, maybe thank you. The dream doesn't answer with words, but with feeling. The light outside grows warmer, wrapping around him and Gary in a soft, golden glow. For a moment, everything seems to float: the chair, the lamp. The very air, like gravity itself, is falling asleep. The book on the table opens again. Its pages turn one last time, slow and deliberate. Then, as the final page turns, the words fade away, completely, replaced by a drawing, a childlike doodle of SpongeBob, Patrick, and Gary, standing under the rain with umbrellas, smiling up at the cloudy sky. The drawing begins to shimmer and dissolve into tiny motes of light, scattering gently around the room. Each mote floats upward, passing SpongeBob's face, his arms, the chair, the walls, and as they pass, they leave behind trails of faint light that curl like smoke, fading into nothing. The room itself begins to fade next, not disappear, but melt softly, like watercolor blending on wet paper. The floor becomes ocean again. the ceiling becomes sky, and SpongeBob begins to drift backward, eyes still closed, as though sinking into the deepest calm. Gary glows faintly beside him, his shell reflecting tiny stars that now appear across the water's surface. They're not real stars, but reflections of memories, of moments, of laughter. Each one twinkles gently as SpongeBob drifts past, breathing in rhythm with the slow pulse of the sea. The camera widens, showing SpongeBob and Gary suspended in a vast starry ocean. The water shimmers with faint silver light, and the surface above looks like a sky painted with the reflection of 1,000 dreams. Everything moves slowly, as though time itself has chosen to rest. SpongeBob's body turns slightly as he floats now facing upward, arms open, eyes closed, completely still. His expression is pure serenity, no tension, no thought, no worry. The gentle light reflects off his yellow skin, turning it pale gold, almost translucent. It's as if he's become part of the ocean's glow. A faint echo of whale song returns, this time softer, deeper, slower. Each note lingers for a long moment before fading into the distance. The sound vibrates through the water like a heartbeat, steady, calm, infinite. Even the bubbles around SpongeBob pulse in rhythm, rising slowly toward the glowing surface. The dream now begins to dissolve completely. The jellyfish fade first, their lights dimming into tiny sparkles that vanish one by one. Then the coral, soft as silk, fades into outlines and then disappears into the blue. Even the water itself begins to lose color, becoming lighter, then softer, until it's nothing but pale, glowing mist. In the midst of that mist, SpongeBob and Gary are still visible, two soft outlines close together. SpongeBob's hand rests gently on Gary's shell. They drift together as one, the perfect image of comfort and friendship. The camera begins its final pullback, slowly zooming out past them through the fading layers of water and light. Soon the scene returns to the outside of SpongeBob's pineapple house. Rain still falls softly outside, drops tapping against the window, though the storm has long passed. The light from inside flickers warmly, steady and calm. Through the window, we see SpongeBob in his real bed, fast asleep. The faint smile still on his face, Gary curled at his side. Outside, the ocean is quiet. Jellyfish drift in the distance, their lights dim and sleepy. The camera tilts upward, showing the surface of the sea glowing faintly beneath the moon. Clouds move slowly across the water's reflection, parting just enough for one soft silver ray to reach down toward the pineapple house. A final gentle sound, a bubble rising, popping softly, and then silence. Only the whisper of waves remains. The music fades, soft piano, long sustained notes, blending with distant choral hums. The storm is gone. No thunder, no rain, just the hush that follows when the world decides it's time to rest. Bikini Bottom lies under a pale blue glow, the kind of light that feels half real, half dream. The streets are empty. The coral houses shimmer faintly under the soft rhythm of the ocean currents. Even the jellyfish fields, usually alive with tiny flickers of movement, are still. The last few drops of underwater rain fall quietly, each one echoing like a soft chime when it hits the sand. The sound fades quickly, swallowed by the quiet. And in that quiet, there's something else, something vast, deep, and peaceful. The ocean itself is breathing. If you listen closely, you can hear it. A slow inhale, the water drawing itself inward, gathering peace. And then the gentle exhale, a sigh that drifts through coral and shells, brushing softly against every sleeping creature. It's the rhythm of rest, of stillness, of dreams being born in the deep. The camera moves slowly through this world. It passes over the rooftops of Bikini Bottom, where bubbles cling gently to window frames. Each bubble reflects a faint glow, the light of a moon filtered through miles of sea. Through one window, SpongeBob's house appears again, his pineapple resting calmly in the sand. Lights dim, the gentle hum of sleep radiating from inside. Inside, SpongeBob sleeps deeply. He's curled under his blanket, arms tucked close, his expression peaceful. Gary rests near the corner of the bed, shell faintly glowing with the last remnants of dreamlight. The book still lies open on the bedside table, its pages fluttering slightly as though stirred by the slow heartbeat of the sea. A soft glow fills the room, not from any lamp, but from the world outside. Through the window, the ocean's light drifts in a faint, silver-blue shimmer that moves like liquid moonlight. Tiny particles float in the water, catching the light and scattering it across SpongeBob's walls. They make the whole room pulse gently, like it's breathing with the ocean, too. The scene lingers. There's no movement now, only light and sound blending into stillness. Every few seconds, a small bubble rises from somewhere unseen, floating lazily upward before disappearing through the window. Each bubble carries a faint reflection, sometimes of SpongeBob's sleeping face, sometimes of Gary, sometimes of nothing at all. The music here is delicate, a slow melody played on a glass harmonica or soft piano surrounded by faint underwater echoes. Each note lasts long, dissolving into the next like ripples on calm water. There's space between every sound, enough for the listener to breathe, to feel that same quietness settling into their own chest. The camera drifts closer to SpongeBob's face. His breathing is slow and rhythmic. Every exhale releases a faint trail of tiny bubbles that rise and fade away, each one a sigh turned into light. He murmurs softly in his sleep, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth, as if his dreams are filled with warmth and kindness. Outside, the view expands again. The streets of Bikini Bottom glow faintly in the distance, the outlines of buildings softened by the deep blue haze. Even the Krusty Krab is dark, its sign swaying slightly with the water's movement. The only sound is the slow, low hum of the sea, constant, eternal, like the earth itself breathing. A small school of glowing fish passes by, their fins glinting in silver arcs. They move in perfect unison, swimming through the empty roads and coral alleys, their bodies illuminating the sand below. When they pass by SpongeBob's house, their glow spreads across the pineapple surface, lighting it up for a few seconds before fading again. Far above, the surface of the ocean glimmers faintly. The moonlight from the world above filters through in long, slow beams, piercing the water like soft ribbons of glass. Each beam wavers gently, painting the sea in shifting shades of blue, turquoise, and white. It's the light of the sleeping world, distant, tender, and endless. The camera tilts upward, following those rays until they disappear into the surface. For a moment, everything is still, only the faint glimmer of light and the sound of distant currents. Then slowly, a single jellyfish drifts into frame. Its body pulses with the softest glow imaginable, pale lavender and blue, fading in and out like a heartbeat. It floats gracefully, leaving a faint trail of sparkles behind. One jellyfish becomes 2, then 10, then 100, an entire slow-moving bloom rising gently toward the surface. Their lights shimmer together, reflecting across the sand and coral below, until it looks like the ocean itself has filled with tiny, floating stars. Each jellyfish pulses slower and slower, as if the ocean's heartbeat is winding down. The light dims to a soft flicker. Their glow fades until they're just faint silhouettes against the misty blue. Then the last of them drifts upward, vanishing into the moonlit haze. The scene returns to SpongeBob's window, the faint silhouette of his form visible through the curtain. The glow from outside gently fades, leaving only the smallest shimmer of silver on the glass. Inside, SpongeBob shifts once in his sleep, sighing softly. Gary stirs too, curling tighter under the warmth of the blanket. Everything slows. The light grows dimmer. The ocean hum fades into a whisper. And the night, deep and ancient finally, completely, falls asleep. The ocean is asleep. Not in silence, but in rhythm. The kind of rhythm that only happens when everything alive decides to rest at once. Currents slow, sand settles. Coral stops swaying. Even the smallest plankton hang in the water like specks of suspended light. From far away, Bikini Bottom seems to glow faintly, a single dream curled within the deep. The coral towers shimmer in pale tones of violet and blue, like lanterns slowly dimming. Every window, every seashell, every coral spine reflects a tiny glint of moonlight filtering from above. It feels like time itself has slowed down, matching the heartbeat of the sleeping sea. A soft current drifts through town, carrying fragments of the storm that has passed. Tiny droplets, remnants of underwater rain, float lazily through the water, catching what's left of the light. They spin and swirl as they move, creating faint halos around sleeping objects, a mailbox, a patch of kelp, a seashell wind chime outside the SpongeBob's house. When the current brushes against the chime, it makes the gentlest sound a slow underwater tinkling that echoes across the quiet town. The camera glides through the streets. No voices, no movement, only slow, graceful drift. It passes the Krusty Krab, the windows dark, the chairs stacked neatly, a single closed sign swaying softly on its rope. A faint glimmer dances across the friars, then fades. Mr. Krab's anchor-shaped house nearby is dark too, its flags resting still against the mast. Even the treasure chest mailbox glows faintly as though dreaming of coins. Deeper still, the camera glides toward Jellyfish Fields. Here the world opens up again, vast, glowing, endless. The fields stretch like an ocean inside the ocean, a soft blanket of seagrass waving in the currents. Where the rain once fell, the ground now sparkles. Every droplet left behind has turned into a tiny pearl, glowing faintly in blues and pinks. The jellyfish, usually dancing in bright clusters, now float slowly half awake, their bodies pulsing in lazy, rhythmic waves. Each pulse sends out a soft ripple of light, and when dozens of them pulse together, the whole field glows like a slow heartbeat. Light travels through the water from one jellyfish to another, then to the coral, then to the sand. It's like the ocean is whispering, quietly telling itself, rest now, dream now. Everything is safe. In the distance, a single sea turtle glides through the glowing water. Its movement is slow, deliberate, peaceful, its shell carrying faint reflections of the jellyfish light. It moves like a guardian of the night, its shadow stretching long across the seafloor. When it passes over the pearls and coral, the light bends around it, making it look almost ethereal. The background sound shifts here, a blend of low, warm tones, a hum that rises and falls like the ocean's breath. Over it, a faint melody, soft piano notes echoing in long delays, as though the sound itself is floating through water. It's the kind of sound that makes you want to close your eyes, to drift, to stop thinking. Then the camera turns upward again. High above the sleeping field, something shimmers. The surface of the ocean, that faraway boundary between two worlds, ripples faintly. Moonlight slips through the currents, scattering into shifting ribbons of silver. Each ribbon twists, curls, then dissolves into darkness again. As the light falls, it touches the tops of coral and jellyfish, igniting them in soft, liquid color. The corals glow gently, their branches pulsing as though alive, breathing in slow unison. You can almost feel the warmth they hold, even in the cool water. A crab rests inside one hollow coral, its claws tucked in, bubbles rising from its nose as it dreams. A pair of seahorses float side by side, tails curled together like the ends of a ribbon. They drift in small circles, never separating, their eyes half closed. And then a wider shot. From above, the scene looks like a galaxy. The glowing corals and jellyfish form constellations in the dark blue water, each cluster linked by faint trails of light. It's as if the sea has become the night sky, and Bikini Bottom lies at its center like a tiny, sleeping planet. The camera drifts through this glowing galaxy slowly, the sound fading into pure ambience. No melody, no rhythm, just the steady pulse of light and the occasional bubble rising into the dark. Every frame is soft, slow, dreamlike, the kind of beauty that doesn't ask to be noticed. It just exists. And in the farthest distance, just barely visible, a faint shimmer moves, a current of golden dust swirling gently through the deep. It's the last trace of the storm, now turned into something peaceful. It floats through the corals and jellyfish, trailing like a memory of rain. Each speck of gold light touches something as it passes a shell, a rock, a sleeping fish leaving behind a faint glow that stays long after it's gone. This is the sea's way of dreaming. Not in words, not in pictures, but in light, in motion, in silence. Every movement, every pulse, every ripple means something. Every glow is a thought. Every stillness, a sigh. As the night deepens, the ocean's dream begins to take form. The soft hum beneath the waves thickens, like a chorus growing quieter and slower at the same time. The light dims just slightly, not into darkness, but into a deeper blue, the color of peace. And in that peace, something stirs, not movement, but memory. The ocean begins to remember. Tiny bubbles drift through the water like floating lanterns, each carrying a faint glow, golden, soft, fragile. Inside each one, faint images flicker, not clearly, but enough to make out shapes. In one bubble, SpongeBob and Patrick laughing together under the jellyfish dome. In another, Squidward painting beside his window, a candle flickering near him. In yet another, Sandy gazing through her dome at the storm earlier that night, her eyes calm and thoughtful. The bubbles float upward, brushing past sleeping coral and fish. They gather in clusters like dreams rising toward the surface. When they touch, they merge the memories, blending together into soft, rippling scenes. One bubble drifts near Pearl, sleeping peacefully near the town's coral ridge. The reflection of the moonlight touches her gently, turning her hair silver in the blue glow. As the bubble floats near her, it bursts, and the light it carries spreads around her like a soft halo. The glow moves through the water like breath, then vanishes. From far above, the camera glides slowly downward, showing how the whole seafloor has become a sea of memory. Glowing trails mark the places where creatures moved before falling asleep. Even the sand carries faint impressions, glowing like starlight pressed into the ground. And then, faintly, a figure appears a shape, small and yellow, seen through waves of distortion. SpongeBob. He's not awake, he's part of the ocean's dream now. The water carries his reflection from his pineapple home outward, spreading it across the fields like a memory projected through the sea. He's sitting beside his window again, reading his book, though the pages move on their own and the words glow faintly in blue light. Outside, the rain continues to fall, not in drops, but in soft ribbons of light now, each one dissolving as it reaches the sand. The scene shifts slowly, as if the dream itself is turning pages. Now Patrick appears, lying on a rock near his house, a sleepy smile on his face. A soft pink glow pulses from his chest, each beat matching the sound of the ocean's rhythm. A single jellyfish drifts above him like a nightlight keeping watch. Further away, Squidward's house rests still and calm. Through the stone window, his clarinet lies on the table, its silver keys glinting faintly in the dark. A final note, one that he must have played before falling asleep, lingers in the water like a long sigh. It travels out through the current, joining the hum of the ocean's breath. These moments, these quiet fragments weave together as the ocean dreams. They're not happening now, not exactly. They're echoes of the day, turned soft and weightless by sleep. Every laugh, every sound, every touch that Bikini Bottom lived through has drifted down here, replaying itself in silence. The camera moves upward again through the quiet streets. The glow from the SpongeBob's window fades, replaced by the soft shimmer of moonlight through the waves. A single snail shell lies outside his front step, Gary's reflecting a gentle silver gleam. Bubbles rise from it occasionally, like tiny sleeping breaths. And above all, this higher than the town, higher than the coral, the sea surface gleams. Moonlight bends as it enters, scattering into soft, trembling patterns that slide across the ground below. It looks like the sky itself is breathing. Each pulse of light matches the slow rise and fall of the current. For a moment, the world becomes still again. No sound, no ripple, no drift, just a single, deep blue frame glowing faintly. It feels eternal. The kind of stillness that belongs to both sleep and infinity. Then faintly something changes. The light from above starts to grow softer, warmer, golden, as though the moon has moved closer. And in that glow, the outlines of clouds appear not real ones, but soft, glowing shapes, moving within the water like dreams of the sky. They drift slowly, their edges curling, scattering bits of starlight like dust. The stars shimmer faintly, caught between ocean and sky. Some of them seem to fall, dissolving into tiny bubbles as they sink into the sea. Others rise higher, breaking through the water's edge, merging with the light above. It's impossible to tell which way is up anymore. The ocean and the sky have become one. The sound returns gently, a deep note, like a heartbeat echoing through the world. It's the ocean itself breathing in its sleep. Every creature, every coral, every grain of sand moves with it. Together, they rise and fall, creating a rhythm so calm, it feels like the sea is dreaming of its own beginning. The rhythm of the ocean's breathing slows even more now. It's as if the sea itself has fallen fully asleep, deeper than sound, deeper than time. The last few bubbles rise gently toward the surface, shimmering with the faint reflection of the moon. Each one bursts silently, releasing tiny glimmers that drift like floating fireflies. Far below, the coral gardens glow dimly, their light fading in and out like soft heartbeats. Every color is muted, pinks now pastel, blues almost white. The motion has nearly stopped. Even the current seems to pause, hanging between one dream and the next. The camera glides slowly over Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob's house stands quiet, its round windows glowing faint gold. Through the glass, you can just make out his shape curled under his blanket, a faint smile still resting on his face. Gary is snuggled near his pillow, his shell rising and falling gently with each breath. Beside the bed, the little book, Stories from the Sea, lies open a bubble, slowly escaping one of its pages, floating toward the ceiling like a dream drifting away. Outside, the rain continues, but it's softer now, almost like mist. The droplets no longer fall straight down. They spiral lazily, dancing with the water currents before fading into the distance. The street lamps cast long beams through the drifting fog, painting soft golden patterns across the sand. The light trembles, alive yet still, reflecting against the calm windows of the other homes nearby. Patrick's rock house is quiet, the top slightly ajar, revealing the faint pink glow from within. Inside, Patrick is asleep on his back, mouth slightly open, one hand loosely holding a seashell. Each time he breathes, a small bubble escapes rising, glinting in the lamplight, before vanishing into the soft dark. It's the kind of peaceful silence that only exists in the middle of the ocean's dream. The camera floats higher, rising over the rooftops. The whole of Bikini Bottom looks smaller now, a town of sleeping lights surrounded by slow, drifting currents. The rain becomes gentler still, now barely visible, like silver threads across the scene. Even the jellyfish drifting in the background seem slower, pulsing with long, drawn-out glows. Above, the surface of the ocean shimmers faintly. The moon is still there, bright, full, perfectly round. But now its reflection has softened, bending and stretching into soft curves that sway with the waves. It looks less like a moon, and more like a memory of something the ocean remembers and holds close in its sleep. The soundscape deepens. You hear the faint hum of the tide, the slow whisper of the waves. A lullaby tone fades in, almost imperceptible, a series of long, sustained notes that blend with the sound of the sea. It feels less like music and more like breathing a final song sung by the ocean itself. And then stillness. The lights from the houses begin to fade, one by one. First SpongeBob's, then Squidward's, then Patrick's. The glow doesn't vanish. It simply dims, merging with the soft light of the ocean around it, until finally the entire seafloor is one endless field of faint blue. The camera drifts upward again. The view widens past the Jellyfish Fields, the coral reefs, the edge of the town, until everything becomes small, then tiny, then gone. All that remains is the great expanse of ocean, shimmering faintly under the moon. Bubbles rise lazily from the depths, each one glowing for a moment before fading into nothing. The sky above begins to shift. The moonlight softens to silver white, and from one corner of the horizon, the faintest hint of warmth begins to appear, a golden blush, gentle and uncertain. It's not sunrise yet, just the idea of one, drifting beneath the waves. The ocean responds in kind. Its color changes slightly, dark blues turning lighter, silver turning gold. The sand begins to reflect the shift, tiny specks glittering faintly like stars returning home. Everything moves together as if the entire sea is slowly waking up. The final sound you hear is the whisper of a single wave brushing against the seafloor, a sound so quiet it almost feels imagined. The camera tilts gently, showing the moon one last time, its light broken by the faint shimmer of dawn. A single bubble rises into the frame, glowing softly with a mix of moonlight and morning gold. It floats toward the surface, twisting slowly, reflecting the stars as it goes. When it reaches the top, it bursts not with a sound, but with a flash of pure white light. Dot, good night.